or the injustice that comes at their hand, but you always leave room for them to be redeemed in the process. So, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful place.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for agreeing to sit down with us. What for you are the issues that, from the original march that still need attention, the work that's still ahead?
We heard so much about this March on March for Jobs and Freedom for so many years. I participated, as I told you, since the 20th anniversary. And you obviously about Daddy's iconic I Have a Dream speech. But then I discovered these 10 demands. I said, whoa, they meant business. And there was one buried in there that people don't hear about, which people are fighting for today, and that's the minimum wage. They talked about a $2 minimum wage. If you look at it in today's time, it's somewhere $17 to $18. So we're talking about 15, and they were already talking about just above 15 back in 1963. So we're behind. A lot of times during this time period, we always focus on, what are we still dealing with and what do we have? But let's talk about also what benefited us, because unfortunately we're living in a time when there's a younger generation who believes that my daddy's generation and those of us that came after didn't get enough done. And I want them to understand, wait a minute, you are benefiting. And this is the way you're benefiting. Employment discrimination, housing discrimination, the withholding of federal funds.
What do you say to people who are weary that we are still having to march to preserve rights that really ought to be guaranteed in our Constitution and shouldn't be up for debate?
Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. Vigilance is the answer. And what they are suffering from is because there were people who were not vigilant the way that they needed to be. And so I get the tiredness. I understand the tiredness. And I sympathize with the tiredness. But don't give up. My mother used to always tell me, she said, baby, the darkest hour is always before the dawn. Political interest, let's say, regardless of the party that I want to look at how I can come together with, my sister, my brother, the elected officials who may not be with my partner. So we can't give up because there's a moment in time when change comes. And we have to celebrate the small victories. If you're not grateful, you will undermine your progress too.
You mentioned your mother, and I want to talk about her a little bit. She was a force too. She was a singer, an activist in her own right. What should people remember about her role in maintaining the legacy and continuing to maintain the gains of the civil rights movement?
You see that there? The Alpha started their project, but for her, they wouldn't have been able to do it. So she filled a gap that happened once he was assassinated that ensured that what they all represented would be remembered and people would be forever referring to it and calling upon it and looking to it for guidance and direction. So yes, for me, Coretta Scott King is the architect of the King legacy. There wouldn't be a real King legacy without Coretta Scott King.